Good afternoon and welcome back to the On the House podcast presented by Rochester Homes. I'm Regan Newton, your guest host today, and with me I have Jim Straeter and Eric Straeter from Ag Technologies here in Rochester, and they are a locally family-owned and operated business. I believe New Holland's been around since the 80s, and then you guys kind of branched off from New Holland in 2011 to start the ag technology side of it. So welcome, and we appreciate you guys being here today.
Thanks for having us.
Yep.
Yeah, you're welcome. So Jim is the president of Ag Technologies, and then Eric and Jim are both in the sales and service side of the solar side of Ag Technologies. So today we're just going to kind of talk about how a residential home could add solar energy to their house and just kind of how that process works, how you get started. And they're just going to fill us in on all the bits and pieces that go along with that. So I guess I'll kind of start with Jim. When and how did you get started in this business? What sparked the interest in solar?
So I've always been interested in solar and wind, the renewable energy, even the biomass, on the dairy farms and digesters and so forth. So put the first arrays up in 2000 and actually got to go in January 2012. So started in 2011 and was very surprised at how well it worked compared to what I thought it would do. I thought you had to have direct sunlight, and turns out you make a lot of energy with indirect sunlight. On a cloudy day, you still make energy. Mm-hmm. So by August of 2012, I realized just from watching it work that this thing would actually pay for itself. So we started, kind of did some changes to the solar cam stand. We can talk about that just in a little bit, but started doing installs and have just grown the business ever since, pretty much by word of mouth. Our customers are our best sales skills.
Okay. And are you guys limited, speaking of your customers, are you limited to Indiana? Do you guys travel outside of the state? Kind of where's your range?
We first started in northern Indiana. Like I say, the local farmers had asked about it, and that's where we really started our business. Since then, we've traveled to the southern part of the state. We've done a few in Michigan. We do a lot in Illinois. We do a lot in Ohio. So I'd say the surrounding 5 states, Midwest, we're trying to continue growing and expanding. So,
yeah. Okay. So let's just say I'm interested in putting these in at my house. What are the steps that I need to take as far as research, maybe kind of like the beginning process to the end process, and how long that takes if I were to work with you guys?
So the first thing that we ask a customer for is a recent copy of their electric bill. Mm-hmm. Almost every electric bill has a 12-month history of use. Typically it's a graph, and sometimes it has the numbers on it. But let's just say that you're using 2,000 kilowatt hours per month. Your bill then would be $230, $240 in that range generally. So from that, we can tell the customer, okay, Regan, you have a family, you got 5 folks living in whatever size house it is, and there's kind of a correlation there. And here's what your electric bill says you're using. So the first question is, can you do anything to reduce that use? In other words, do you have LED lights? What are you doing with leaving lights on? Can you do, the occupancy sensors and so forth? So we talk to people about that because it's a whole lot cheaper and easier, quicker to save some energy. And when I say save energy, that means getting the exact same service from the energy, but using less. So turning the light off when you're not in a room would be a perfect example. Nobody's in a room any which way. So, okay, well, we've done everything that we can do. It's still $2,000 a month. Hopefully you got room on the ground, because ground mount solar is more efficient than roof mount, but some people have no option there. We understand that. We partner with a roof mount company in those cases. And then we need to look at the utility. So if you're on Fulton County REMC or Duke, that's the 2 choices here in our county, the policies are quite a bit different. So we will explain to the customer, okay, with Duke, you get net metering until 2032. which means when you put energy on the wire, you can get it back whenever you want it, 1 for 1.
Okay.
But with the REMC, it's 80%. It's still a good deal, either which way. We are very fortunate. Our local REMC has provided that policy. And then we show the cash flow, the payback. How are you going to get your money back?
Mm-hmm.
And, we want to make sure customers understand that. You would be surprised that some people believe the environmental impact is important. Others really don't care. And we understand that. So we talk to them about the money. It's a good financial investment. And here's why, after we show you how it's going to work. And you may not be able to do a 100% system where you replace all of your energy use with solar,
Mm-hmm.
but we'll show you what your options are and at what level of solar you can put in to get a good payback.
Okay.
But that's where you start.
Okay. And as far as the customer starting, do they need to look in, are there grants, tax credits still out there, incentive programs to kind of help alleviate some of the costs for the customer?
Yeah, I mean, the pricing of solar has come down in general anyway for the past 6 or 7 years.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm talking inverters and racking and everything as well. There is a 26% investment tax credit that can be used for residential or business. You could use Section 179 depreciation if it's available to you through a business, if the business is in a home, for example. That's available. There is USDA grants if it's ran through a rural business. Typically, it all depends on the current rates and what you're paying per kilowatt hour. But typically, a homeowner will see a payback somewhere around 10 years.
Okay.
And that includes sales tax for the material on top of that. If you have a low cost per kilowatt hour, sometimes it's 12 or 13 years.
Mm-hmm.
We've seen them as quick as 7 or 8 for a resident.
Okay.
As quick as 1 for a business. So, I mean.
Yeah. You're, just talking about the return on investment, just give or take, let's say 10 to 12 years, what's the life expectancy of the actual solar panel?
Yes. So it's standard in the industry to have a 25-year warranty.
Okay.
Typically, half of that is a product warranty where 100% of the cost of the panel would be handled under warranty. And then after that, for the second half, it's a performance warranty. So what that means is typically 90% of the rated power of that solar panel will still be available after year 10
Okay.
and 80% after year 25 or at year 25.
Mm-hmm.
We pride ourselves on selling only premium panels, so it's 85% at year 25. So there is a huge difference in solar panels, and we can talk about that product quality, because your question about where does a homeowner start, that we need to talk about that part because it's really critical.
Yeah. Yep. And I know I briefly talked to Eric previously that these panels that you guys are selling are made, they're USA made in Georgia. How did you stumble across this manufacturer, or what made you lean toward that manufacturer over another?
It was a forced decision. So we started out with Kyocera in 2011. They left US in 2017, late in 16, if you will. And we found our way to Solar World, an Oregon manufacturer. That
Mm-hmm.
plant got sold effective last December to another US company, but their pricing wasn't very attractive. Just in time, Q-Cells was building the largest solar factory in North America. And they're a quality panel. We knew they were. So, by the grace of God, when we needed some help, there it was.
They're a global company too. So this is the 4th manufacturing plant they have in the world, and it's German engineering, German technology, American made, high quality panel at a reasonable price point. And I think that hit it. The panels have a 25-year warranty, but the other main component is the microinverters that we use. These are a microinverter that's attached to every panel.
Mm-hmm.
They also have a 25-year full replacement warranty.
Okay.
And then the life of the system, generally, they say 30 plus years, but honestly, 35 to 40 years is what we expect.
So to your question, what does a homeowner, where do they go? Well, after we looked at the size and looked at the policy from the utility that you happen to have serving your home. And we'll talk about these components, and we've talked about the panel. We've talked about every solar system has to have an inverter.
Okay.
So people that are not familiar with how that works need to understand that the solar panel makes energy that's like a battery in your car or truck. It's DC current. Okay, so it's direct current. The electrons actually flow through the wire. That's converted to AC current with the inverter. So when you plug your iron or your hair dryer or whatever into the wall, that's alternating current. Much more efficient to transfer the indirect current. So we make it right at the solar panel. So with the microinverter, that's one of the big reasons we've stuck with microinverters. Service after sale is the biggest reason. We'll talk about that. But then the other part is the amount. So it's called racking. And there's a bunch of that stuff out there. Some of it's really cheap, some of it's high quality. But if you have a 25-year warranty, you'd better have a racking system that will hold that. And that's one of the issues with a roof mount. I mean, typically shingles on a roof are going to last, 20 years maybe?
Yeah.
Okay, you got a 25-year warranty solar system on top of a 20-year shingle. What do you do when the roof leaks? You got to pull it off. And so that's one of the reasons that we tell people, ground mount, if you can, is the way to go. Steel roof would have a little longer life expectancy. So that would be better than shingles. But we build our system and expect a 40-year service life out of it.
Okay.
If your lowest panel is still making 85% at the end of 25 years, there's another 15 years certainly of life left in it. And our solar stand is built by Craig Welding here in Rochester. We get a lot of credit for overbuilt, farmer built, all those sort of things. And it is a very strong system. So those are the things that a homeowner would want to take into consideration. If there's room on the ground, that's the way to go. If there's not, then a quality racking, look at the condition of the roof, look at the weight carrying capacity of the rafters and so forth before you jump off and do something wrong.
Okay. You talked about if they have the location for it, about how much space do you think that they would need?
Oh, a general house, I hate when people ask that question, how much solar do I need? But generally, 1 or 2 arrays per house. So one array would be about 550 square feet. So 2 arrays, somewhere around 1,000 square feet. Not a whole lot of space. And we can go 500 feet away from the connection point. So it's not like it has to be right at the house. If you have the other end of the woods or waterway or something like that near you that you own, you can put it there as well. So it's pretty flexible.
And on that square footage criteria that Eric just used, another way to look at it is that example of the $240 bill I just gave you. So that would be 2 arrays, so 90 feet long together, 45 each. Okay. And if they were flat, which they never are flat, it's 13 feet wide. If that helps somebody understand what it would look like in their yard or on their property, that's all it takes for a home. Okay.
As far as do trees play into factor, which side of the house it needs to go on?
Yeah. There's no such thing as a solar system under a shade tree that's good. I mean, you want to stay away from that. Sometimes shading is inevitable, but the rule is you want to be 1.5 times the height of the object away from the solar system.
Okay.
Especially if that object's on the south side. So there have been some trees removed because of solar, just so you know.
I'm sure there have been.
You relocate the tree, you cut that one down, you plant one somewhere else.
Another one. Yep.
So relocate it that way. But and we get some grief on that, most people think trees are good and they're right and everything, but for each of those arrays, it would take over 6 acres of trees to absorb the same carbon that the solar array will keep out of the air because you don't have carbon from coal or gas or something. So taking a tree or 2 down to accommodate solar is not a bad deal.
Yeah. So I guess another question I have as a homeowner, I know people probably think, well, I have a solar unit. Does that mean if my power goes down, do I still have power when my neighbor won't have power? Do these have any sort of battery storage with them? Do you guys offer the battery storages, or is it?
Yes, to everything. However, that is a really emerging technology. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So, and there's a couple of ways to do that. So you can have energy when the grid is down without any batteries. So put that in your mind is when there's light, you're making energy and you can run, depending on how much light's available, whatever is there.
Okay.
You add some battery storage to that, you greatly enhance the capability. It doesn't have to run the whole house.
Mm-hmm.
It gets wired up for what's called critical loads. So you need to decide what's critical, the freezer, perhaps,
Yep.
the geothermal, perhaps, or whatever. And the system will automatically power up whatever is energy is available to run.
Okay.
So if you think about that, in an emergency situation, so we got an ice storm, let's say, it took down the wires, we're going to be out of power for 3 days.
Mm-hmm.
So with the solar system, if it's set up that way, you would not be able to use all of the energy. Maybe you got an electric clothes dryer, let's say. You may have to forego some of that stuff until the sun's shining brightly, then you could catch up. But without batteries, you could actually live, if you will, without the problems of the freezer thawing out, or without everybody freezing if it's wintertime, which an ice storm would be, I guess. So yeah, there's things that are out there. I need to be candid. At this point in time, it's not exactly the best financial option. A diesel or gas powered generator would probably be better, but it's getting very close. And battery technology pricing and performance, or pricing is coming down, performance is going up. As electric cars come on stream in the next even 2 or 3 years, it's that close.
Okay.
It will greatly reduce the price of batteries. So get the solar now, add the backup or grid down, if you will, later is that's a good strategy.
Yeah, I mean, generally, we talked about warranties on the panels and the inverters being so long. Warranties on batteries are commonly 5 years, maybe 10, but you're going to pay for it. So basically, in year 11, that means you're going to buy a new battery, and it's not, the first one's not paid off yet. So we tell people these inverters have to see grid power to work. The grid anymore is not down very often, or if it is, it's 20 minutes usually, unless a big ice storm comes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But at that point, like Dad said, just get a generator to run the critical loads. You're going to be money ahead that way.
Okay. So somebody comes in and says, I want to be completely off the grid. We can do it. You can do it. Okay.
We can do it. It's just financially, that cannot be the main reason they're going to do that.
Yep. Okay.
And we'll be honest with it. I mean, we don't want to turn away money, but we want to be honest and upfront about their situation.
And you would be surprised at how many people want to get off the grid. They have the right motivation. they're mad at the utility, but once we explain them what it really takes to do that, they start appreciating the utility a little bit more.
Yeah. So kind of an easier said than done type of thing.
Yes. Oh yeah.
Yep. So let's say I've talked to the utility company, I've talked to you guys, green light, kind of what's your process from start to finish of setting up your system, kind of time frame are they looking at?
Generally, I mean, it varies, but by the time we get a signed purchase order, so customer has a quote, they decided, yes, we want to go ahead with the system, we get a signed purchase order. That allows us to go ahead and get an interconnection application started with the utility. Mm-hmm. They have 15 working days usually to approve it, which they almost always do, as long as it's within spec and within their guidelines and policy. Then we work with the county or city or whatever zoning district they're in to get permits. Usually they treat it like as an accessory structure, such as a yard barn, for example. Okay. And make sure we meet the setbacks of property lines and the road frontage and all that. Stay away from septics. And, by the time we get all that done and get the electrician and all that lined up, you're generally looking at about 6 weeks.
Okay.
From the time the purchase order is signed until the time you flip on the switch.
Okay. As far as you were talking about the permits and whatnot, do you ever run into issues where you have to apply for a variance?
Yeah.
More rarely than common. I would describe that as a rare.
Usually that would be for larger systems, usually that we've done, like schools or at businesses, for example.
Mhm.
Usually, well, it depends if you're in a subdivision or not, but if you have a lot of close neighbors or you're in like a residential, like inside the city or whatnot, there's a better chance you would need to meet the setbacks or to meet the, allowable structure to be in there.
Okay. All right. And I know Craig Welding makes your support system for these panels. What type of foundation do these have to go on? Do you guys work with a company to do that? Do you have the guys that work for you that do that, or do you kind of subcontract that out? How does that typically work as far as the foundation?
So we do the whole install. So on that example that Eric just gave you about the 6 weeks or whatever, once we actually have all that in place, it's one day to put the solar in, and probably electricity is one day to hook it up. It's
Yeah.
that's the quick
It's
part.
pretty quick. It's the
A lot of small steps.
But
Yeah.
but to answer your question on the foundation, so that was a big issue originally. We would drill holes and put concrete in to hold our A-frame legs. You can see that on our website, how the stand is built. But there was always a problem with that because we could never assure ourselves or our customer that that solar array would withstand a 90-mile-an-hour wind, because even if you do a soil test, you still cannot tell exactly what that soil holding pressure is.
Okay.
So in April of 2018, we converted the mounting system to what's called an earth pier. It's an anchor. So we screw an anchor into the ground on each end of that A-frame leg. We measure the torque. Once you know the torque, you know the tension and compression capability of that pier. So we
Okay.
can hand the customer and or the insurance company or anybody else that wants to know solid proof that that pier is going to hold enough to handle the 90-mile-an-hour wind, and probably a lot more in almost every case.
Mhm.
So it's that's probably since our start back in 2011 and 12, the biggest change that we have made is in that mounting. But we wanted to be able to tell the customer with complete confidence that this system is going to handle a 90-mile-an-hour wind, and we're unaware of anybody else in the industry doing that.
Okay.
So you drive the I-beam into the ground, it's just like the concrete. Yeah, you think it should hold, it probably will hold,
Mhm.
but you don't know for sure. And the same thing is kind of true on the roof mount things. I mean, there's a bunch of different technologies out there about how that thing's fastened to the roof,
Oh yeah.
but there's no guarantee that
Yeah.
that.
I would just venture to say they're safer on the ground than on the roof when it comes to wind, but
Yeah.
just
So, and again, yeah, if you don't have an option, the roof is a way to do it. But if you have the option of ground mount, that's the way to go.
okay.
And the insurance companies appreciate that too. I mean, most of them are pretty flexible with the policies, but some of them actually want to see specs and proof.
Okay.
And we can provide that to help people.
Have you ever ran into an insurance company not wanting to insure solar panels?
We did originally. Yeah, that industry has come around now to where they're not nearly as anxious about the risk involved there. So pricing, of course, is what is a result of being anxious. And we had some really ridiculous situations where insurance companies were wanting to charge more for the insurance than they're worth the value of the energy the system was making.
Yeah.
That won't work.
Yeah.
You'll never pay back. So, but anymore, that's mitigated considerably. It's a cost, but it's kind of a minor cost per year.
Okay. And we even figure that into the cash flow. So when we provide somebody a quote, for example, we do the cash flow spreadsheet, and that's all figured in. I mean, every cost, including permitting, is figured that figure.
Are the permit costs pretty significant, or does it kind of depend on, is it vary county to county probably?
It varies by jurisdiction.
Yeah.
But usually $50 or $100 is a common fee.
Not too bad. So.
No, it's not a bad deal.
Okay. So I know you said, you guys have both touched on service after the sale. What type of maintenance is a customer looking at once these are up and running?
So there are no moving parts in a solar system. Okay, that's why 25-year warranties are possible. But there are cases where the inverter, this device here, it has a 25-year warranty, but I'm unaware of any other inverter that's got more than like a 10-year warranty unless you pay for the extended part. So let's just say that you have this system and the inverter goes out. Now we have one inverter per panel, but string inverter systems, there would be multiple panels. Maybe every panel that you own is on one inverter. So let's say that inverter goes bad, and they will. I mean, 10-year warranty, you know, it's not going to last 25 years.
Yeah.
So if the homeowner is unaware of that until he or she sees the electric bill a lot higher than they thought they were going to see, they've just lost all of that time of not making energy. So we have the online reporting, and I don't know if you can see this or not, but this is a solar system in Illinois. So this is what that looks like on the computer. So there's, this is 40 panels. There's 20, 24 and a 16.
Okay.
So we can go online and tell what every single panel is doing anytime we want. So can the owner. That is a huge benefit of microinverters. And
Okay.
so, you know, we've been in the farm equipment business a long time, and if you don't have service after sale, you're out of business.
Yep.
So when I put the first systems up, one is a string inverter system and the other is a microinverter system. And I thought the microinverters would make more energy. They'd be worth the extra money. But once I saw the reporting, no question about what we're going to do here.
Okay.
So that's the big deal. And then, of course, the other thing is before you get that far, if the salesman says, okay, Regan, you're using 2,000 kilowatt hours per month on average, and I'm going to put up a system with 30 panels. That was 40 there, 30 panels, and it's going to make your 2,000 kilowatt hours per year. Well, if you believe the salesperson, that's fine. But what if he or she is not telling you the truth? I can't imagine that a salesman would do that. But so you really want to, unless you happen to know the installer and have talked to people that got your system, you want to make sure you get that done. Because once that thing is up on the roof, you've written the check, and now it's not doing what you were told it was going to do. So I've got a windmill here on Rochester that's exactly like that. I mean, I thought I'd get 1,300 kilowatt hours per month. 880 is what I'm really getting. So, but it was too late by that time. So the industry, unfortunately, is not very well regulated. There's a lot of people out there selling and installing these things that are over-promising and underproducing. So if we don't do anything else here today, for somebody that's watching this, understand this. If the salesman can't take you to a system that's doing exactly what he or she said it would do, run. Because it's just that way. So we pride ourselves on showing, you know, we're up to 400 installs now, and we're happy to provide a prospect with, you know, any number of people they want to talk to. Most people come to us because they have talked to one of our customers. And
Okay.
That's, you know, it's satisfying that we can grow our business on that basis.
Oh yeah. Referrals are great, and that's it's just good. I mean, great rapport, and obviously if you guys are getting those referrals, you guys are doing something right. So
well, thank you. Yeah, so we want to keep doing it that way. There's a lot of change going on, and Eric talked about the prices coming down. That's kind of plateaued. I mean, what's happening is the value is going up because the performance is improving more than the dollars and cents are coming down. Now, prices did drop dramatically from 2012, maybe to 2016 or 17. But the solar panels that we put up in 2012 was 235 watts. So you can see, I think the solar panels behind us here, the shorter one of the two is a 60 cell panel.
Okay.
235 watts. That's what's out here on the yard at the store. That same size panel today is now up to 340 watts, and it costs less money. Think about that.
They've come a long way since 2012.
So I tell people I have the most expensive and the least efficient system I've ever put in, and that's true.
But his is already
upgrade, Jim.
His is already paid for, and he's still under full warranty. So that's why I tell people, don't wait to get something that's coming out better down the line. I promise you, something will come out better down the line. Just like a cell phone, you walk outside of the AT&T business, it's already outdated, but it's still got warranty. You know, do the same thing with solar. Go ahead and do the investment now because the tax credits are there. There's other incentives and reasons to do it. And you know, you can always hook a battery system up later, or you can always add to the system if you needed to later. But that's no reason to delay.
I think I've covered most of my questions that I had for you guys. Is there anything else that you would like to add to that?
Yeah, Eric just whispered. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah.
Well, a common question, especially for residents, is do banks offer loans, or how do people fund these systems? Because a lot of people can't just write a check.
Right.
And I tell people, you're going to spend this amount of money anyway, whether it be towards your investment or to the utility. You're going to spend this money in 8 to 10 years. What a lot of banks are starting to do now is short-term loans or home equity loans. They got different ways to structure them.
Okay.
The rates right now are really low. It usually like right now, it would add a half a year, maybe a year to the payback. But it's still an affordable way to do it. And it still financially pencils out and makes sense to pay towards the investment instead of keep paying the utility.
And the investment tax credit Eric mentioned earlier is 26%. It's going down to 22% next year.
Okay.
For residences, it's going to 0 the year after.
Oh, wow.
So now everybody knows that the political situation is very volatile and so forth. So I wouldn't bet against some modification of that, but
right.
I don't honestly think it'll be any better than this year or next year.
Okay.
But to see a 15 or 20% for residential come back afterwards, I think is the possibility is there. So people need to take that into account. But again, if you can finance the system and offset your utility payment with a payment at the bank and eventually own the thing, that's a good deal.
The whole purpose of the investment tax credit was to help systems become more affordable because, 8 years ago or whenever this 30% came out, solar was pretty expensive and it was a longer payback, and, they wanted to promote renewable energy. So that's why they offered a 30% tax credit, and it just kept getting extended. And it's always been set to reduce, but now it's finally reducing.
Okay.
And honestly, you don't need the 30% or 26% to make it affordable, but it's there. You may as well use it while it is.
Well, it's there. Take
advantage. It will go down. Exactly.
So, all right. Well, I appreciate you guys jumping on the podcast today. And I hope that, a lot of our listeners can benefit from this and have learned a little bit about what solar can offer for them. And if you guys are interested in checking out some of their videos, going to their website, you can find them at solarcam.us. And I know that Jim and Eric both have kind of mentioned that they do have several videos that you can look at that are posted on there. They are based out of Rochester, Indiana. So they do have some panels right there at their facility that you can check out. I noticed just driving around Fulton County, I've seen a couple other systems that have been set up through the county. So that's neat to see. And I think you guys are doing a great thing over there. So we appreciate you coming on. And as always, you can find us on Spreaker, Spotify, iTunes, and the video version is posted on YouTube. So I appreciate you guys coming on today.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks for the opportunity.
Thank you. Yep. We'll see you.
Bye.